All right. Well, it is 4 o'clock, and we'll call this June 25th Park Board to order, and we'll start with roll call.
Sandy.
Here.
Schaefer. Schreip.
Here.
Miller.
Here, do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Move on to the approval of the agenda.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second on the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. The agenda is approved. And then the consent calendar. Notice to the public, all matters listed are considered routine by the board and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the board votes on the motion to be adopted by roll call. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second on the consent calendar. Please call the roll. Jesse.
Sandy.
Yes.
Scheip.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes. We have a consent calendar. Looks like we're moving on to 8A, new business, approving the event application of the 4th of July celebration.
Thank you,
Jesse.
Mr. Chair. So attached is an event application for the 4th of July celebration. It's very similar to the one that occurred last year. So this is kind of a hybrid event compared to years prior, where the event now includes some band performances using the new amphitheater at Lyman P. White Park. They also utilize the seating over there at the amphitheater for part of the show. None of the food vendors are planned to use the park. They would continue to use the football field area as they had in the past, same with the additional restrooms. So the park area would be limited to the musical performances and seating for the event, but most of the event would still continue to be over on the football field side, and then the parade would occur earlier on in the day through East River Road. The council did approve this on their previous meeting on the 17th, and we're looking for park board approval for use of the park.
Very good. Questions, comments, or concerns of the use of the park for the 4th of July celebration? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the event application?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second on the approval. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. 4th of July is on. 8B, approve request to install the outlet at Bain Park. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So City Council Member Johnson had reached out to us. He had an electrician talk with him. Matt Delaney from Northern Lights Electric has offered to provide his services to install an electrical outlet on the pony field over at Bain Park, essentially to assist with having an electrical supply for like the pitching machine over there at that field. They would do that at no cost to us. We're just looking for approval from the park board to allow that to occur.
Very good. Any questions about electricity at Bain Park? One outlet at Bain Park.
I'll make a motion to approve the installation of the electric outlet at Bain Park.
I'll second that.
All right. Motion and a second. Any further discussion on the outlet? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We also have an outlet. 8C, approval of the final pay request on the Mississippi Riverbank Restoration Project. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we wrapped up the rest of the restoration work for the Mississippi Riverbank Restoration Project. We placed a lot of the trees over there, as well as finished up the last of the seeding. We do have to button up this project as the grant timeline is at the end of this month, but we did get all of that work done within that time frame, so we're pretty happy with that. We do have everything extending out for a few years of warranty period as well. With that said, we are going to be underneath the total project amount by roughly about $13,000 total. We're looking for approval of the final pay request in the amount of $121,321.
Thank you, Jesse. Any questions about the final pay request? Hearing none. Oh, yes.
Jesse, does this, I assume that we're kind of out of time to use up the remaining money for anything. I can't think of anything else we'd use the money on, but we're pretty much done at this point with the whole grant.
Correct. We've pretty much expended almost all of the dollars, and we have about 3 more days to do so.
Fair. Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, we'll have a motion to approve the final pay requests.
I can make a motion to approve the final pay request for $121,321.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We're paid up. Approval of the 2024 Parks ADA upgrades. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So each year we budget $25,000 to complete some ADA improvements in the parks. Put together a few different options for you to consider, as well as some estimates. In the second page of the packet, it had a few different options to consider. I know we've talked a little bit about the Triangle Park one in the past. One thing I'd like to see, the potential for Triangle Park is kind of coupled in potentially with the future road project there. I've included some other ones, Lum Park, Buster Dog Park, Rotary Park, as well as Memorial Park as well, just to have a different handful of different ones to consider for the park board. Staff is recommending pursuing quotes for improvements at both the Lum and Buster Dog Parks as presented. We feel that with what we're estimating here, we can accomplish 2 of these, and then this couples these improvements as well as improvements that we're already going to be doing at these parks with both the Buster Pavilion as well as the improvements that we're already doing at Lum. So we think that these would be good improvements to couple with the improvements that we're already doing in these years.
Very good. Any comments or questions about the ADA improvements? I actually think these are probably our 2 best options, just given the Triangle Roads Park. I know that Rotary, I think the concept of it is we'd probably prefer it to remain, more of that natural feel anyway, not having the sidewalks in there. So I think, as far as right now, I think we'd prefer to keep the sidewalk out of there. And Memorial, we're doing a little bit of a change in with the skate park concepts and getting rid of parking lots and things like that right now anyway. So my opinion, those 2 are the best fit for this year's funds. So any other comments from anyone else, concerns or questions? Paul?
Jesse, I'm assuming that the contractors for the Lum Park improvements have a concrete contractor that we can solicit quotes from that'll already be on site?
That's likely one of the vendors that we would use for getting a quote on this.
That's all I had.
Very good question.
Yeah, I like both projects. I think Buster gets mucky with rain, so having sidewalk there to the pavilion's nice. Keep the mud on the dogs, not on the people. And Lum, yeah, just tying that all together will be really good. So, yeah, love it.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns about the ADA improvements? We'll be looking for a motion to approve these upgrades.
I'll make a motion to approve or ask staff to get quotes for the Lum Park ADA upgrades and the Buster Dog Park ADA upgrades and bring those back to a future meeting for consideration.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We're getting quotes. Let's discuss 8E, Pavilion 1 improvement items in Lum Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this was a request of the park board to get some more information on some of those remaining items from Pavilion 1 in regards to the remaining $15,000 that we had left in the pavilion budget after awarding the Pavilion 2 work. So highlighted a few different things that after discussing with the architect, his idea of what those different pieces would cost from his estimate. So just kind of looking for direction on how the park board would like to utilize those remaining budget dollars. We could look at doing some of these items as part of the budget dollars this year. We could use those budget dollars towards tree planting like we've talked about. and budget Pavilion 1 in a future year, and we'll actually get to that and do a future item discussion later on in this agenda for the 2025 capital budget. But just looking for direction on how the park board would like to handle that remaining $15,000 in that budget line item for that capital item.
Very good. Any comments or suggestions on where we should spend the dough?
I really like Jesse's alternative of going after 5 and 6. Those are the elements on that building that really look the worst as far as the fascia and the gable ends on that building. And I think that's like the quickest way to get us closer to our design standard. While it's not all the way there, it's at least getting us in the right direction. The tongue and groove undersiding on the ceiling, the reshingling of the roof, which doesn't sound like it's really needed, and the paint on the concrete blocks, just it seems like that those may be able to be budgeted for future years to get us in compliance with our design standards, and this stuff will really dress it up nicely.
Well, thanks, Paul. I appreciate your expertise on it.
Yeah, I was going to ask what would extend the life of the building the longest, I guess. So if you guys would agree that that would,
I believe 5 and
five-
6 would extend the life of the building
Yeah.
the most.
like, how much longer do you think? If we didn't do anything, if we planted trees, for instance, like, just for fun. I mean, I know you can't, you can't tell the future, but like, are we talking like 10 more years? Or are we still saying like, in 5 years, we would need to?
Considering the condition of it now, you probably have another 10, 15 years and it would be in pretty rough shape before you probably don't want to start using that building anymore.
Okay.
By doing this rehab, you're probably extending it another good at least 10, 15 years for sure before you're having to look at another rehab.
Very good. Paul?
I recall that reshingling getting done like in the last 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, that shingling is relatively new.
Yeah,
So
I
we,
mean, I think, just from an exterior envelope perspective, protecting that to the greatest extent practical, which is what those two elements, 5 and 6, provide. Yeah, I would agree with that, is that you want to protect that and keep water from intruding on the interior elements of the building, and the rest of the stuff is all kind of interior and aesthetic stuff. So yeah, I think that what Jesse, had kind of outlined is those shingles should last another 10 to 15 years until you have to reshingle and look at the underlayment and the sheeting on the roof and the structure itself, for that matter.
Very good. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? I think we have a general idea.
I would just add we have about 3,200 saved in our kind of 2% maintenance fund from the past 2 years. So I think we could certainly use that. I don't know if that'll get us item 4 there, the block paint management, but we do have that money saved for this building. So we can look at if that will help us, or if it's still too small to do much with. But I know that ties into what you were saying, Jesse, about the capital budget too.
I can request an itemized quote from High Tech for all 3 items. And if the idea is prioritizing 5 to 6 is more of the protection of the building, as paint is more of an aesthetic item, and if we can happen to fit those 3 items, depending on the pricing, since they're there, I don't know. We'd have to ask, but I can ask them for an itemized pricing for all 3.
Idea?
Yeah, it sounds great.
All right, well, we'll look for a motion then, or just direction. Well, let's just get a motion.
I'd move to ask staff to get a quote from High Tech on items 4, 5, and 6, with our rough plan being do 5 and 6 first.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All in favor, or all opposed, same sign. We are moving on to item 8F, discussion on the rotary solar project. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a follow-up from the presentation from the Rotary Club on June 4th. We've attached a handful of the design documents that were presented last year, the updated cash flow summary that was distributed at the presentation. Just updated that BPU staff would have to update the estimate for the power service. The exhibit from 2022 indicated $3,000 roughly. They were estimating roughly $12,000 at that meeting. Obviously, they have to clarify what that new number would be. It sounded like I mentioned that in their June 25th meeting, the Public Utilities Commission would take the project under advisement. Looked like they weren't able to get that under this meeting, so that ended up going to the July meeting, so they did not have that discussion at this time. But I did include the link to the YouTube meeting for that presentation, as well as a handful of the different questions and answers that were asked during that presentation. Really, staff is just kind of looking for direction from the park board on how you'd like us to proceed, what next steps you'd like us to take.
Thank you, Jesse. So I think there were a few concerns and questions that we wanted to field here, and since BPU wasn't able to sneak a lot of this information onto their agenda and have to wait, we should probably get those concerns out there and, find some potential solutions to these or conversations otherwise. So just kind of open the floor to whatever comments and concerns and questions we might have. Start with Paul, I think. So.
Yeah, I kind of been thinking about this project a lot, and I had some discussions a little bit with Jesse and others and about kind of the purpose of the project and how it's going to benefit that park specifically. And from what I've heard, I think the purpose of getting power to that building is not only provide power to people utilizing the building, but also to provide for security improvements at that building. I know kind of the success rate of having security cameras on our buildings hasn't been the greatest, and one of the concerns that I think I brought up was with, having the cameras is great on our buildings, but they lead to a pretty low success rate in actually catching a perpetrator in the action of vandalizing a building. One of the things that comes up is the internet connection to those cameras is usually through like a air card access. And I guess one of my first questions or concerns would be if we're planning on bringing power and having solar at this building, do we have an adequate either signal for cell service at that location to be able to stream this back to the police department? Or is there provisions to get fiber to these cameras? I know, like I said, the success rate of actually catching people in the act or having high resolution imagery to catch people doing vandalizing buildings is not very great either way. It's more of like a notification that someone's out there maybe at unwanted times or hours doing something to the building that you may not want them to. So I guess my biggest question is, historically those cameras kind of serve as notification to the PD that someone is there doing something, but they have a pretty low success rate. So if the main intent of the project is to have cameras on that building, I don't know if there's a lot of value there, given our success rate in actually deterring people from doing things to the buildings. I saw some information about security of the panels themselves, and one of my concerns, even though the building is pretty high up in the air, I have seen people in my time at Brainerd that use their means to get on top of structures and vandalize things, even if the building is pretty high in the air. I know we had vandalism at J.C.'s Park where kids were putting picnic tables on top of the concession stand. So it is possible for kids or vandals to get on top of buildings and damage things on top of buildings. And with the location of this park and where it's at, I'm just very concerned about that. I saw that they have to extend power to this building anyways to have the interconnect to the solar panels. if the purpose of the project is to get power to this building, and we're already extending power to that, are we going through, I know it's, for resiliency and generating our own power, but if we're already extending power to this building that is long-lasting, in the ground, can't be vandalized, is it worth the risk of having these on top of the building if the sole purpose is to provide power to the building in the first place? And we're already extending it there for the interconnection. So those are my high-level kind of items that I've been thinking about and stewing over since our meeting with BPU.
Appreciate the input, Paul. Who would like to go next? Kara, Andrew?
I can go.
Andrew? Sure.
So I wasn't able to be at the last meeting, but I did watch the recording. I think what did stand out is I just really appreciate Rotary's stewardship of the park. I think, right, it wouldn't exist without Rotary, and everything they've done makes it a fabulous park, and the plans they have are also great. I am certainly not opposed to this. I think, given where we're going to get with our budget discussion, investing in solar power here is a really nice thing to have, and it's not, right, we have 4 playgrounds that I think we could all look at and say, these are not in good shape. And so to spend $20,000 or $30,000 on a solar system when we've got other more pressing needs is a tough sell, but I appreciate the Rotary wants to own it, and if they can find the funding source, I'm not opposed to having solar on the roof. I think, right, it would just be, from our perspective, making sure that doesn't become a liability if there is vandalism, and they become inoperative because some goon gets up there with bolt cutters and insulated bolt cutters or whatever and slices a bunch of cables. That would be my big concern. But I think the concept is great, reducing carbon emissions, more resiliency in the grid, all great stuff. I think we're just not in a position as a park board to invest in that right now, even if it is a great idea. So I got it.
Yeah, so I appreciate, yes, all the work you guys are doing, Rotary team. BPU, it's really kind of them to offer, help fund it. But yeah, the vandalism thing, it does scare me because I don't know what kind of vandalism we have out there now. I know that there was some stuff on that overlook, but as far as in the actual pavilion, I don't know if there's any vandals in there. But Paul had mentioned this before, but light and power usually bring opportunities, possibly for vandals to come and hang out longer. So I guess I would be really nervous to place those up there if we had a higher risk of vandalism and bringing shady stuff back there more than maybe it already is back there. So I don't know if I'm a yes or no, but.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot about conversations because I'm on a lot of sides of this too, like the sustainability and the educational side, which is, part of what the park itself is about, the educational, the seed bank, the sustainability. The solar panel idea and sustainable energy makes perfect sense for this park. And I am with you. Yeah, the structure is very tall. People will be able to get up there and they can damage these things. So it is, yeah. I mean, the primary concern in general is vandalism here. I think the concept's great. Happy to let BPU fund it, take the money, whatever it might be. I think that's just the primary discussion piece that we need to solve or come up with some sort of idea when it comes to vandalism. We're trying to have sustainable energy, so we also need to have sustainability to keep the panels on the roof and undamaged unless, by an act of God. So I think that's my, I share the sentiment with everyone here. It's, how do we stop people from damaging this stuff? And that's just an answer I personally don't have sorted yet. So I think for our discussion, after BPU's decided that, we can put the money forward to do this, and it comes back to us for the final yes. I think that would be the one thing that I want to solve, or some sort of something, as an answer to what are we going to do if somebody climbs the pavilion and destroys this? Because we're not going to be profitable for 15 years. So, what happens within that time? Who's paying for it? Are we taking them off? What are we doing if somebody wrecks this stuff? So I think that's the big question we need to have answered before we come back with a yes after it's funded. Any other questions, comments, or
More
concerns?
of a IT question, Jesse, that comes about with our current cameras. I know that there was just issues with the current cameras and the air cards and all that. Can you give us any feedback on the success rate of keeping those active and live and streaming down to the police department?
We do have a lot of challenges with our current air cards. We have been going up through finding alternative means with access to fiber lines and coming up with better solutions there. I included an email from BPU on the potential benefits for running fiber down to the lift station down there. That there might be some mutual benefit for them. I don't know what the timeline would look like for that, but there would be potential benefit for them as well. But the best option for us for like a security camera would be through a high resolution fiber line. The issue with the air cards is they're fine for download speed. It's the upload speed that becomes the issue, and that's where we run into the problem. It really isn't a solution at any park, even the ones that have good reception. The upload speeds just aren't there.
Any other questions for Jesse, comments or concerns on this project? Again, let's just try to get it all out there so that, when it comes back and we have the money there, the check's about to be written, that we can have these things solved before we say yes or no, that this is going into the park. So, Mayor.
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for working with BPU on this and just hammering things out. City council has its position, you guys have your position, they have theirs, but sometimes there's overlap. So I just want to thank you guys for, getting those questions to them, letting them answer, letting them get back, trying to move things as quickly as possible. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? So I think, do you have enough there? I think direction-wise, like I said, we just want to come up with some solutions and answers to the questions of vandalism, like what happens when these are destroyed, if they are, before they're even, paid for. Who covers it? Not the city, I imagine. Is it BPU? Is it the club? Is it, who removes it? And what are we going to do to deter that sort of vandalism?
So I can clarify from the presentation, my understanding is the city's insurance would cover these as similar to any of our other infrastructure and buildings. Should they be damaged by anything other, well, even including like a hailstorm, the city's insurance, we would file a claim against our insurance, pay our deductible, and then we would work to replace them through that process. As you can imagine, it's not an easy process necessarily to go through, but it is a process that we can go through. But that would be the process that we go through, is through our insurance. It wouldn't be the club, and it probably would not be BPU either. It would be through the city's insurance that we would address that through. If there was a criminal act and we were able to source that person, we could work through the police department to file potential criminal charges with the person that committed that, but that would be a different process, and we'd have to have PD involved with that. But other than that, insurance would be the route we would go.
Okay. All right.
So I have
So,
a follow-up on that.
yep.
So we're sure about that process will work, though, considering which entity owns or who's in charge. We're sure that
The city would own those. That was the only way that the grant would work as well, is the city would own those solar panels, so our insurance would cover them. So we would have to make sure that our insurance has that listed under our insurance, which obviously we don't currently. So we would make sure that we contact our insurance once they're installed to make sure that they are listed and covered.
Okay, that does alleviate a little bit of my concern as well. But I still like to see a little bit of deterrence information, because we don't want to replace them every 5 years and make an insurance claim. So let's just try to find for our next discussion about this, when the check's ready and the ink's wet, let's have some idea of what we'd like to do to deter damage to the solar panels at the very least before we make a decision. Paul?
I think this was probably a question for Jesse, kind of discussed at the BPU joint meeting. Would there be some sort of agreement in place between the park board and BPU on ownership, or how does that all work from that end? And I mean, we're all the city, so that's where it's kind of confusing. It's a little bit weird that, BPU is going to own these things and they're in a park, which we have jurisdiction over. And how do you foresee that all kind of working together? And
Yeah, and that way we'd have to work out a little bit more of the detail on how that works and how we're selling those credits back to BPU, because obviously BPU would be utilizing those energy credits back to, like, I believe it's FERC, but they would be utilizing some of those energy credits and taking advantage of that. So, but the city would ultimately be the owner of those solar panels.
And so we'd have to, so I think to Paul's point, like, who has to be the one that worries about what entity within the city has to worry about removal and that sort of thing. Like, if BPU is going to front all the cash and take all the literal credit, are they going to be the ones responsible for taking these off the roof? If we have do they do the bids? Are they doing, you know what I mean? Like, is it coming back to us if, again, in the hypothetical situation, these are destroyed in 5 years, is it coming back to us to approve something to get them back up on the roof again and taken down? Or is that going to be the responsibility of BPU or just the city in general?
So I'll reference to the storm damage that happened over at JC's. What was it, 2 years ago? We work with a contractor that gets approved through our insurance. The contractor is the one that does all those repairs.
They were just removed from that
So
process.
the city isn't really involved outside of obviously having to work through the process with their insurance company. But odds are, if we had to do anything, either we'd work with the Rotary Group, but BPU has the electricians on staff. If there was something, we don't have an electrician with the Public Works staff, so we would work with BPU if there was something to be handled with that. But if there was something like replacement because of damage, we would work through our insurance company to identify a contractor.
Very good. Thank you for that. Carol?
I was just going to say, I think at the end of the day, as Paul said, we are the city, we're all the city. So, I mean, I think it has to come, I don't know if we can all come to an agreement, or it's going to affect each of us some way. If it's on the pavilion in our park, and then city staff has to, go with insurance, I mean, it's going to take time, which is also a valuable thing. So we just have to remember that as we're going through this too.
Yeah, my question would be agreement-wise, right? So Park Board has the right to have anything removed from anything within the parks. So 5 years down the road, you guys say, man, we really hate these solar panels. How do we work through that? Because if BPU is paying for it, but you guys have the power to have it removed at any point, BPU could hypothetically pay for it, and you guys could theoretically have it removed the next day. So how do we work through that in reverse as well? That when the park board says enough is enough, we're done with these, the park board still has that authority to then remove it as well.
And I can identify a little bit of that. We had that discussion, I believe it was last summer, not necessarily with BPU specifically, but with the Rotary Group, about these were some of the terms that the park board was amenable to, of here are the things that need to be identified in an agreement. Unless something has changed, we can identify if those terms have generally changed, but we can identify, what kind of terms, and work with the city attorney to draft up a framework of an agreement of what that looks like. And if that's something we should be identifying in there, and we can make sure that the attorney addresses that in some form or fashion.
Yeah, my main concern is authority of the park board. A park board has the authority
Right.
to say what happens within the park. So whether or not BPU is paying for it or not, I don't want the park board getting rid of their own authority on any matter, specifically about things that are placed within the park. So I just want to make sure that you're covered in that, so that when things go south, if they do, that the park board has the authority to make that decision.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other further discussion on the solar panels for now? All right. Well, you don't have enough direction, I guess, at least until our next discussion about it, I suppose.
And we'll have another commission meeting here coming up in July. We should hopefully have some more clarification from their commission on decision on funding. So hopefully we can get some clarification from them as well.
Very good. We will hold out for funding then. So we will move on to 8G, the discussion.
Take public comment
I-
as part of this?
Do we? Okay, yeah, I guess I move on to 8G and discuss Memorial Disc Golf Project. So, Jesse, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Memorial Disc Golf Project, we're wrapping that up now. I just wanted to quick update the park board. So we had originally $10,000 budgeted for this work. I did want to update everybody. We did have to go a little bit above and beyond the original budget. So we had ordered baskets and signs earlier this year, a little over $5,000. We had to go out for bids for the concrete work for the tees and the baskets for the concrete. We're timing with their opening event later this summer. We didn't have the time to get the concrete work done, and we weren't going to be able to get any lesser vendor charges. So we knew those were the lowest prices we were going to see, and we tried to find a different way of finding different savings elsewhere. There really wasn't too much else we could find. We did go with Lind Masonry with the low quote of $8,500. I spoke with Connie before we did that to make sure we found available funds elsewhere, and we were able to do that before we did that. But I have informed the disc golf group that we are no longer able to fund anything further for this project. Everything else has to come from them. But we are looking for approval of the disc golf course budget of up to the $14,000 and change here. With that award of the Lind Masonry quote. As mentioned, they kind of wrapped up the flat work this week. Our maintenance staff has been helping out with them. They basically prepped about all of the work to do about as much cost savings on that project as possible. They pretty much dug out all the holes, prepped everything. All they had to do was form and pour. And our maintenance staff is also going to be putting all the topsoil and reseeding everything. Placing all the signage, all of that. So we tried to do about as much as we could from a cost savings standpoint from that perspective. But beyond that, we should be wrapping that up within the next couple weeks.
Very good. Any questions, comments, or concerns for Jesse on the disc golf budget? Andrew?
I just appreciate everything the disc golf folks have done to, I know they were last year out clearing brush and trees and getting that ready, so I appreciate how much work they've put in to participate and make this happen. Excited to see it open.
Dave?
Where'd we fall on the name of that? Did this end up the Mayor Beddoes Memorial 9, or? No? Oh.
Oh, yeah, Karen.
Is there social media presence, or is there going to be photos and things happening at this grand opening?
I haven't gotten all that detail. I know they want to do a kind of a soft opening a little bit beforehand, just to kind of maybe work out the kinks and how it's all going to work out. They are fabricating a kind of a wooden sign, I'll call it an entrance sign, but like a Memorial Disc Golf, and then it's going to have another changeable sign that indicates what layout they have the course set up for. So they're fabricating that one, and they'll install that. We just got to look at that one. So they'll take care of that here in the next couple weeks as well. But yeah, I think it was early July, I believe, was their identification for a grand opening date.
Very good.
Follow up on that. So,
Yeah.
sorry, the sign, is it going to fall into our design standards?
It was, I think, 2 4x6 posts, just cedar treated posts with just a a board across it with white lettering with Memorial Park Disc Golf Course. It was a very simple sign. It wasn't anything special. So no, it does not meet like the park's entrance sign detail. No,
Oh, okay.
it's not that grandiose of a sign.
Further discussion on the disc golf course? Can we get a, oh, Dave?
I do have one final comment on it. This is another item that, in terms of the work you guys have done for master planning, this is a space that we were mowing every summer, in perpetuity, I assume, but every summer for the last probably 25 years. And nobody thought they could go back there. And there's so much space back there. So I really appreciate the work that you guys put in identifying items like this, finding there's a cost to it. There's been a cost to it forever. And now there's actually going to be a use. So I just want to applaud you and your efforts and your work that this is those items coming to fruition. Greatly appreciated.
Any more fluff? Any more fluff? Can we get a motion to approve this budget? I think I'm good. Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the budget for the Memorial Park Disc Golf Course up to $14,136.49.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Disc golf is growing. 8H, the approval of the 2025 Parks Capital budget request. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're about to have some initial discussions with our council, just to get the process moving here before the end of summer, and just want to get the park board's approval on what the request should be as we begin those discussions. As a quick reminder, we have 3 projects identified for 2025. Those 3 projects are listed here for Buffalo Hills, Gregory, and Kiwanis. Along with the 2% long-term maintenance funding, as well as the catch-up funding and stuff like that. We do have a 2025 capital funding request of just over $565,000. Some things that staff would like some direction from the park board on. We've had a discussion on the Gregory Park pergola, specifically whether or not we should be replacing that or having that removed at the end of its life. Like I said, it's in the plan right now, identified for replacement, whether that should be included for replacement. And as discussed earlier, Lum Park Pavilion 1 improvements, if the remaining funds needed to finish up the Pavilion 1 improvements should be included in here. We could remove some of the long-term maintenance amount included in 2025 to accommodate the needed funds for that project. Just looking for direction on how to handle that. Do we want to increase the overall ask to accommodate the Pavilion 1 improvements that we're not able to fund this year? Really looking for the direction.
Very good. Comments, questions, or concerns about the capital budget? Andrew?
For the pergola, I think if it is at its end of life, or when we decide it is, or I think more likely when your team, Jesse, is out there and says, hey, this is in really rough shape. I think, right, we've already kind of identified demo rehab for it, so I don't know if we need to explicitly do it this year as much as just be aware that when it's time, our plan is to take it down unless a partner wants to rehab it. So I think we could probably remove that from our budget, and honestly, like Jesse, would that just be staff time to chop it up? Like, would that really be an expense we need to? Yeah, I think that's maybe a fiddly one that slipped through our planning. So I'd be on board with just kind of getting rid of that, knowing we'd get rid of it when it's end of life.
Getting rid of the item itself or the pergola?
Both, actually.
Okay, so I think we'd probably just like to have the pergola removed, and then that just removed from our planning sheet. Okay, and then as far as item 2, the remaining Pavilion 1 improvements. Comment on that. I mean, I guess we could increase the ask, knowing that we are just doing more. And to Andrew's point, we do have some money already set aside in our 2% for that. I mean, coming back to the old agenda item, we have some amount of money set aside, so our ask isn't the entirety of this. You know, we have whatever estimations we had, so it's only going to be a $40,000 ask minus what we already have saved and what would be our 2% towards this project for 2025. So the ask would probably only be in the low 30,000s. I guess we could just ask for more since we're already working on the thing, but it does kind of contradict our our funding strategy. So I don't know.
Well, isn't that why aren't we trying to extend the life by the previous agenda item, so we could maybe just not do anything this year and push it ahead more? Because otherwise, we're spending money that we just approved. That doesn't make sense.
Sure. Yeah, and I think what we could what we could realistically do is, you know, based on the estimates that you provided in the old agenda item, we can just take that and have that be, you know, those remaining items for rehab purposes, and just have that be what our future estimate of that item would be, since we're already going to do a couple of the improvements this year. I guess otherwise, I don't think we need to make those improvements because of to your point, but, you know, I guess the question is, do we increase it? Probably not. Just leave it alone and work on it when the funds are actually available to us in our budgeting plan.
And I'm curious, can you guys help remind me what this garden with pavers was that we were doing in Kiwanis?
It's the one with the sign in it.
Oh, like
Yeah.
our main sign there?
Yep.
Okay, and we were talking that we were going to be replacing that? Or what was, I don't remember, yes? Does it need to,
That's the replacement
Replace?
cost.
it's what?
That's the replacement cost. Yep.
Okay, and so that isn't that taken care of by a community member, or is that not a memorial spot anymore? Or do we,
If you'd like us to direct towards Kiwanis Club, that's what we can do.
oh, I guess, I thought it was like somebody's dad or something. Am I remembering that wrong? Like, who plants those? Is it the Rotary Club? Or the
No,
Kiwanis
that would-
Club, I mean? I'm getting confused.
It would likely be the Kiwanis Club.
Yeah.
I don't think our staff does those plantings.
And we are talking about the one under, like, that the
main
sign is
sign.
in. Okay, just making sure. Yeah, I guess I would reach out to the club first on that one, just to see if they wanted to cover the cost of the pavers. I guess I don't.
I guess,
Yeah, I don't know who installed it
I thought
originally.
it was like somebody was doing that in honor of her dad, and I cannot remember who it was. But they must be a Kiwanis Club member. Dave, you know what I'm talking about? Is it Amy?
Yeah, vaguely remember.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's still true, but I think, you know, we might want to consider that. I know that wasn't part of the discussion, but since it's on our list, we might want to, you know, since it's next year's planning and if we're asking for money for it, but
Which is a good policy as well, to try and identify the items that have been included, because they're always pitched as,
We'll
we
take
will
care of
take
it.
care of it.
Yes, and again, part of the capital budget strategy was to make sure that if we identify things that community groups are taking care of, that we at least reach out to them before we make any adjustments or changes to those structures, or removal, for that matter. So, that item, let's just reach out to the club to make sure that, you know, if they're not involved, I think it's a nice little structure. So I'd like to keep it intact for sure. But Paul,
I have just a general process question because I wasn't really involved in the capital planning process. So on the first attachment, the 30-year capital requests, is our total request then in that total column each year of the city council? And then we as a park board have these projects identified. So for year one, like 2025, we're asking in this plan right now, $46,000. Where does the rest of that money go? Or how does it get spent, or? I'm just a little unclear on that.
Yeah, you go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, so kind of the three columns you see, the 2%, the catch-up, and the immediate. The thought is the 2% is funding towards replacement of all of our capital items, right? Pergola now excluded, to replace the pavilion, to replace parking lots, trails, the fountain.
Whatever
Yes.
that comes out.
So that as either things fail or they need to be replaced, we've now saved up money to just spend and replace it as we need to, and not have to have kind of lumpy capital requests of, hey, the softball field lights broke, we need $400,000. It's, hey, we've been saving for 30 years to replace those lights, or the giant parking lot, or the trail around Boom Lake. So that's the 2%. The catch-up is things that we identified as needing to be replaced more quickly than the 2% will get us to. The Boom Lake Trail is actually a good example, right? It's not in great shape. We can't wait 50 years to replace that. So those are, let's figure out when it's going to fail, right, or be really bad, and then just divide the replacement cost by the number of years we have to that date. And then the immediate is things that we do want to kind of sneak into the capital plan. In this case, the Buffalo Hills parking lot. Right, we want to do that in conjunction with the parking lot, so we want to add that. But then that calls that out for kind of a separate discussion with the council of, hey, here's some new item versus things that we've been planning. Or, right, we identified a need 5 years ago, we've been saving towards it.
So then the count on projects are specific projects we identified in those years that will expend those funds.
Yes.
And the 2% is our estimate on those particular assets within the system. And so every asset, is assigned a rough estimate value, and then the 2% of that value is what we ask for annually. And then, up to this point, I think we have 1 or 2 years of savings as it is. But yeah, then we take those savings and, when it's time for replacement, knock it off the list, per se. But again, it was a lot of napkin math, but it's kind of worked, instead of making those massive asks every year. It's worked out great. And then even the immediate, right, like the parking lot still has some amount of money set aside for it already. Not again, some large amount of money, but we do have a certain amount of dollars set aside so that 40,000 immediate ask is already kind of helped along by, a couple $1,000s that we've saved since the budgetary plan has been implemented. So. Other comments? I guess we're slightly off track. The two items originally, the pergola, we'll just demo the thing when it's time, and then we'll just strike it from the annual budgetary request, and then Pavilion 2 will just continue to save it until it is an immediate problem.
Pavilion 1.
Or Pavilion 1, I'm sorry. And then as far as the pavers item on there that was listed, let's just reach out to the Kiwanis Club, make sure that that's not somebody's special project that we'd be working on, that they don't want first dibs on.
So just to clarify, the request would be $565 minus the $6,000. So you're looking at $559,000.
Yeah, scratching the pergola.
Okay.
Got it. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, I believe that is correct. So 565, 354 minus 6,000.
Yeah.
Liaison, how do you feel about this process?
I think your guys' process is worlds beyond where it has been in the past, and I appreciate all the effort that you've put into this. And I think that the council will appreciate it as well. Not that they will agree with it, but that is not for us to be concerned about until they do so or do not.
Thank you for your insights. Any further discussion on, or comments for Jesse on our request?
I just want to jump back to Pavilion 1 quick. I think that's a good kind of gut check for us in this process, right? Where we had some money budgeted because they were in rough shape. We did what we could with the budget we got, and the two items we're probably going to be able to do will extend the life, and that buys us time to get the 2% catch up. Are we feeling? I love that plan. Are we feeling that makes sense? I know we decided this concept a year, 2 years ago. But does that feel like it's playing out the way we want it to?
I feel like it is. I mean, and this is the early parts of it, right? We're going to be front loaded on so many of these wacko, like, things that are structures that are about to just crumble, that we have to tend to immediately. And so with this, doing a little bit of rehab, stretching the life out, letting us put a little more money in the bank for these particular structures, I think that's exactly how the plan was setting all of this up. It's just, again, it's going to be a little front loaded with some of these emergency situations, Dave.
I may have just missed it, but how are we doing with the lights this year? Or did the small improvements that we made, are we operating at a capacity that is doable?
As far as I know, we haven't had any issues with the softball lights. I haven't heard though.
So you're telling me?
We have had one issue. One night, field one did not turn on. They turned it off, and like 30 minutes later, they turned back on. That's the only issue we've had so far.
Okay, so you're telling me by slowing down, we may have done well. Noted.
Any further discussion on the 2025 proposed capital plan and budgetary request? Jesse, do you have any further information you need from us?
Nope, that should give us enough direction. Thank you.
Very good. All right, I don't think we need a motion for that, right? So, moving on to the public forum. We'll open it up at 4:56 for comments from the public. Yeah, 56 minutes past midnight. It's time allocated for citizens to bring matters not on the agenda to the attention of the board. We will open it up. Come on up. Doing a wonderful name and address in the microphone, please.
My name is Ariana Matakis, and my address is 817 12th Avenue Northeast in Brainerd. I was coming here. Just an introduction of myself. I'm a registered nurse with a background in maternal child public health and in the tribal forum, and I have also worked in mental health. I'm also a mother of three. As part of one other thing that I'm very passionate about is like nature, bringing my kids into nature and being able to offer them the play experiences out there. For the past several years, I have done a nature-based play curriculum with my oldest child. It's called Tinker Garden. They also offer to independent contractors the ability to bring that to the public for the community. I came here to ask about being able to use Kiwanis Park and possibly Lum Park as places for offering these classes to the community. I also have some sheets that kind of give an overview of it. They are offered each season. It's a play-based curriculum class for 18-month-olds to 8-year-olds. I'd offer them every week to families, and it's also offered seasonally as the curriculum. It's an 8-week curriculum each season. Some things that they go into are empathy, communication, creativity, sensory wellness, problem solving for children. And it's just a really great curriculum to offer. Just nature-based learning for kids. So that is what I came here to ask, is to be able to use those parks for these classes, if you wanted to look.
Yeah, we'll take whatever literature you got. And then Jesse, I guess, what is the process that we can help this young lady get space? I mean, I guess it's kind of based on what parts of the park, I guess, you would need to utilize, and I guess, but what would be our process for getting
So our policy is that, obviously they have to reserve the pieces through our civic rec program, and then obviously there's a payment piece of that. If they're requesting to use those facilities at no cost, that has to come through the park board to have that approved, to go beyond that policy, because that's not something that we can approve.
That would be my request. Being that it's a weekly class, I would offer probably 3 classes a week starting and seeing how it goes from there for the summer season before moving on to the fall curriculum. That's an example that I gave you guys for last year, one of the sessions where this summer their curriculum focuses on the sensory experiences, taste, smell, feel, but also we also provide a form for parents to sign just for any like legality aspects as well. Like if a kid ends up like getting hurt, for example.
So, Dave? Yep.
Are you looking to use like the pavilions, or are you just looking to be out in the general space, or?
Just in the general space. We would have a kind of like a blanket set out, like a picnic blanket, and then we'd offer like a circle time, and then some of the things that we would use. We do have kind of play-based activities such as using fallen nature, like fallen leaves or fallen things that are not alive parts of a tree, for example. And that would also be kind of cleaning up the park in a way too for those art activities. But we follow a no traces left behind policy as well. So we would make sure that things are cleaned up for each class. They're offered 1 hour sessions at a time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for utilization, so I just want to make sure that we're, giving you the space that you need, and we're doing it all above.
Yeah, how does that work, like when we do yoga in the park? Because that would be a
That's
very direct comparison.
So what we've told them before is, if you want to use the park, you're more than welcome to. It's usually when somebody wants to reserve a space for the park, that's when they want to go online and actually reserve the space for the park. That's kind of where we differentiate the difference between the two. For what you're looking at, Lum Park is a very large space. I don't think you're going to run into an issue with conflicting uses of that park. So I can't imagine that you would need to specifically reserve open space at that park specifically, or for your event. So I would feel very confident that you would not necessarily have to reserve the space.
Yeah, pavilions would be a different issue. But,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah, but so what I'm gathering, you're good. As long as you don't need a specific spot in the park to reserve. And that Lum Park would probably be the more ideal, just given the, the open space and everything like that you're looking for. So
Okay,
sounds like you're good. Just do your thing.
sounds good.
But,
So for Lum Park, that would be okay, several hours a week for a couple classes a week.
Yeah, I mean, and Kiwanis is, it's still an option to you.
Yes.
It just is, Lum Park, I think, just given the nature of what goes on in Lum Park, you'll probably not run into as high a usage and conflicting times. Jesse?
Kiwanis will be the busier of the two
Yep.
parks. I'll just note that Lum will have the beach expansion project as well as the campground expansion project. But because it is a much larger park, there's going to be ample space to avoid those issues.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome to, you can do your thing in whatever park you'd like to utilize, but, from our, just kind of knowledge of the park system. Haley, actually.
My only thing to note is I would reach out to myself to make sure that we don't have any prior reservations in that park, just so you know what the space is going to look like.
Yeah.
Should I send you like a schedule for each season
Yeah.
for the classes then?
Yep.
And we'll go from there.
Yep, that
All right,
works.
perfect.
Very good.
Great.
Please let us know how it goes.
Yeah, we really do
Yes,
want to know.
thank
Yeah,
you.
that's great. So I love
Perfect.
the utilization stuff. This is awesome. So thanks
you.
so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Make a final call for the public forum. And we'll close the public forum at 5:04, and we'll move on to staff reports. Jesse. Or Haley, yeah.
Okay, so a few things I want to note. We did our fishing clinic. This was, we changed the date to June 8th, and we got about 24 more kids. It was a beautiful day out, went very well. In the report, I also kind of talk about things we're going to do for next year to help promote it. The next thing I want to note is our Rent.Fund kayak paddleboard rentals are up and going. I am working on the advertising for that now. There has been an update. There's been 13 rentals as of today versus the packet says 5. So that's without any marketing on our side. We're working on that. So hopefully that just keeps going up.
And then I'll just note the maintenance report has obviously maintenance updates, and we talked a little bit about kind of the assistance that the maintenance group has been doing with a lot of our different projects. The ARPA projects, talking with the contractor in the next couple weeks, they'd like to set up a pre-construction meeting. So we should be expecting a little bit more clarification on their timelines for those projects. The Buster Park Pavilion, we're probably going to hold off on that if we're going to look at putting a potential concrete slab. We'd hate to try and put a concrete slab with the building there in the way. So we might hold off on that one for a little bit longer if that's the direction we're going to go. We talked a little bit about the disc golf course. The warming house at Gregory did get the gutters placed on that now. The packet's a little outdated for that, but those are up and placed. So that's kind of an update on the projects. Troy did mention while I was out, we did have the Brainerd Lakes Area Recruitment Program from the Army National Guard. Once a year, they do community service projects throughout town. They decided to come over and do some help over at our Lum Park Beach. They helped kind of do some grooming over at the beach as well as plant a handful of trees over there. So that whole group did a fantastic job, a little bit of a volunteer project over there. So if you have some time, go ahead and take a look at that. So that was very nice of them to help us out in that project where we're going to continue to see some more improvements there. Haley will be working with Mayor Bedeau on our upcoming movie in the park program. I believe the first one is planned for July. I guess I'll let you guys get into that. But just looking if there's any reservations from the park board for utilizing Lyman P. White Park starting in July for the movies in the park events. Planning for at least a couple kind of late summer here. Making sure that there's no reservations from the park board on that.
I like it. Yeah, I think it's kind of neat. So, I don't know what film we could show, but I have the same license plate. So.
Listen, sometimes you see an item, and you say, well, there's a prop for tonight's meeting. And then you purchase that item using your own dollars. I don't know where I'm going to put what I'm going to do with this, but now I have it. So,
Put it on your Cybertruck.
Yeah. Oh. Now you're cooking. The mayor's Cybertruck, parked next to the mayor's mansion.
We would like some other clarification too. One thing that we do have is a popcorn cart. If the park board is willing, we can bring that popcorn cart down to provide popcorn for the movie in the park. Odds are we're not going to be able to make money on it, but we can definitely provide that. But we'd like to get park board approval on something like that as well.
We'll lose tens of dollars on this.
Story of our concessions.
Yeah.
Who owns the popcorn cart?
Too carried away. This is through a grant, through community action. Money has been set aside specifically for these events. However, community action itself is invested in the purchase of the units in order to project the films. So we're looking to support this in any way that we can. Including probably a visit from the mayor there as well. You could probably get me doing some work, volunteer work. I'll pop some popcorn.
What a value add.
I believe he's popped popcorn in the past for different events, right?
You know, we won't get too far into it, but I got in some trouble when I was a kid, and I had to be a candy striper at the hospital a couple times. And they had me popping popcorn on Fridays. Best, I've heard this many times. Every time I'm in the hospital, they say, best popcorn anyone's ever had. So,
Wow. A bold claim, certainly. Anything else, Jesse, Haley? Yes.
our tentative date is July 20th. We booked the space already. We are looking at a few movies. We're kind of on Back to the Future at the moment.
Kind of.
Kind of. Nothing has been decided 100%, but we have that all going. I'm talking to the rep for the license and stuff like that. So we're really excited to get this going in July.
Awesome. Anything further?
Listen, this doesn't go past this room and to the people watching at home. There may be the presence of a DeLorean if one Back to the Future is selected. So I can't say that that will happen for sure, but I'm just going to say stranger things have happened.
Are you guys thinking of like dress up too? Like people
Yeah, we'll get you as Marty. Yeah.
at least wear those like glasses. I'm really making myself sound old.
Yeah, we could hack it. Yeah, we could get Kelly to be Christopher Lloyd.
And then, Mr. Chair, if I can ask one question of the park board. For the beginning of the July meeting, I know we've had discussions about doing a park board, maybe like a field trip or a field discussion about Mills Field. Would the park board be open to beginning the July meeting at Mills Field to look over those buildings and then reconvening back here at City Hall to continue the meeting? If so, we need to make sure that we notice the meeting appropriately.
Yes, I think we're all in agreement. We gotta get out there. So
That'd be great.
good idea.
Okay, thank you.
We'll move to board member reports, and we'll start with Paul.
I've been hearing of some mumblings about some people in the parks after hours and some complaints about enforcing the hours of operation of the park. So I just wanted to kind of get staff's feedback on if they've received complaints about that. Specifically, I think some homeless folks in the parks after hours and receiving complaints about that.
Only a couple isolated ones. Depends on the park.
I guess, yeah, for me, as part of the overall, using community enforcement folks in there for the dog waste and things like that, we should be enforcing the park hours as well. So if we can, I had similar reports to me as well. I mean, again, isolated, but we got to be looking into this because, I mean, we can't, we start letting people in there after hours and get a little lax on it, we'll be, it's going to be a little bit harder as we go along. Yes, Jesse.
So I can clarify, after 10 p.m., it is a petty misdemeanor. The police department can cite for it. They cannot remove somebody from the park, but they can cite for it.
And we are enforcing that now, though. Have we cited anybody lately?
I believe when there's a report, the police department would go out there and address it.
Got it. Anything else, Paul? All right. We'll move on to me. I had a similar thing with Paul. Was the, I guess the a little bit of after hours usage of the park system. Not in any particular parks, but just making sure again that's addressed. I mean, again, following the same theme. Again, we want to enforce dog waste pickup and all that stuff, and we're using community officers to do that, or at least, strolling through occasionally. I think, again, continuing that for the actual after hours portion of this would be great. Otherwise, I had a wonderful discussion about the Gregory Park tennis courts with the pickleball crowd. Yeah, well, so yeah, you're involved too. I got a wonderful plan I'd like submitted, but it's great. I think, again, looking at budgetary time for like the resurfacing of the tennis courts and everything like that, we're gonna need to come up with some dough outside of the city funding this. But yeah, I mean, we need pickleball, right? I mean, yes, I mean we need it. So talking with the mayor and talking to these guys, yeah, I mean, we're gonna find some money to do this. I mean, we have to. We're overflowing in pickleball right now. So, Dave was gonna go on Sunday, but you know, there's a lot of pickleball action, even at Gregory as it sits now. So, would be nice to find a way, and we'll start getting the things in motion to do this. But I guess my question to you would be, what would the actual cost of this be, and how much money do we need to find? And how do we set this kind of thing in motion?
I'd have to do a little bit of research. I know it wasn't a small expense because it's a resurface of the entire
Yeah,
court.
the dimensions of it are sizable, certainly. So, but like I said, you can't start on it unless you know how much it would be. Oh, Paul.
Yeah, the city of East Skull Lake actually was looking at resurfacing their pickleball courts, and I think they have up-to-date costs from a contractor to do that, so it might be worthwhile. I can give you a contact over there for that.
Very good. Yeah, because that would help us out a ton in finding the dough. And
It's expensive.
I can't imagine it's cheap. But like I said, I mean, and to be fair, I mean, we have it listed, I think, under 2043 or something like that to resurface those tennis courts, but it is in pretty rough shape. And it would just be it would be the bigger of the two. I think ideally we just keep the tennis courts, the actual, the ones people actually use over there, intact, but adding another actual pickleball field, and not have the hockey rink malleable surface pickleball courts would actually be kind of nice to have within the system, and we need more of it. I mean, we didn't really know last year when we were talking about the JC's rink and the pickleball courts and all that, and we had money to spend, and we didn't really have enough information to put that in, and obviously we had a policy of no new structures, but if we knew we were overflowing in pickleball action, we probably would have made at least considered a different course here. So something I really would like to see, just because, I mean, again, park utilization, #1 priority for me, but we got to find the dough. So if you could find out what it's going to cost and help us work on raising, that would help us work on raising funds.
If you could find out what the base level cost would be too, like if we did anything, what would it cost to restripe, potentially do some kind of netting? I know grand plans, right?
Right.
Everybody always wants grand plans, but if we could find a baseline too, just to set us at where anything would be.
The restriping is minimal cost. I mean, we're talking about a couple $1,000s, and then the nets are $3,000 to $4,000. I mean, we just replaced a few of them over at Memorial. They're $3,000 to $4,000 a piece. So you're talking about a few $1,000s just to replace the nets and repaint. It's the issue that I've heard with the Gregory courts is the surface.
Yeah, the surface is not good. So I still just we need to know how much it's going to cost, even for the future, because this is going to be around for 30 years.
Well, I mean, it's
So-
literally tennis courts, so it's either being used for pickle or for tennis.
Well,
but either
but
way.
pickleball requires a different surface, so.
Oh, does it?
It does.
Oh, I
It
was
does.
not aware.
It does.
I was
It
not
does.
aware of
It does.
the
And the
difference.
surface that we have at the hockey rink is obviously, that surface is specifically because we need ice to form on the rink. It's not the actual pickleball surface.
Called concrete, yeah.
Well, look, the surface is not. It's not it's not ideal pickling.
But the pickling is different than the tennising
Yes, it is.
for the court purposes? I no longer support
It's
this.
it's a racket by Big Concrete to.
That's exactly what this
That's
is.
pickleball was invented by Big Concrete to get us, but so yeah, if you could, I guess I could, but whatever it might be, like I said, I know we need it, and so if we can find. So, we probably won't find enough money to resurface the joint, but if we can find that middle ground and work towards that, or just, whatever we can do.
Yeah, I think we're back again to the question of nets as well, like in-ground versus,
And I think for me, I'd like this to be a pickleball court.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't want it to be so if we want to put them in the ground and get nice netting and have a nice court, that's kind of what I'd like to see. I mean, minimal cost, but if we need to do some fundraising to get it done.
could tennis still be played on a surface that is meant for pickleballing?
Do we need 5 tennis courts?
I'm simply asking the question.
You wouldn't want to play tennis on a court like that. I mean, you just wouldn't. But we have 2 very nice, well, up to code, regulation code tennis courts, and 3 that are not. So, and people are playing pickleball. They're not playing tennis anymore. So, we'll keep the 2 because they're nice and up to regulation. But I think we should make this. We should make it pickleball. That's what we should do, I think. But that's just my immediate idea. I'm speaking with these guys. Plus, we get a lot more courts out of those dimensions too. So, any information you can provide would be awesome. Comments about the pickling, the pickleballing?
Are the set of 3 tennis courts, you're saying those aren't actually correctly sized?
Well, so I believe the dimensions and because the 2 are actually up to like U.S. tennis like regulation and code. Like there's signage and everything for those specific courts. The 3 tennis courts that we have are not the same. They're different. So
What is happening?
I know it's just disrepair. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Disrespect is what it is.
Disrespect. But yeah, so pickleball, I love it. I had a great meeting. I'd like to pursue having those, and we need them. So we need more. That's it for me, though. Andrew, what do you think? Oh,
I'm now speechless and playing with GIS.
hey, I got you this is they got the dimensions of this. But yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
you can fit a lot more.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. We could do 6 pickleball courts for the price of 3 tennis courts.
Wow.
It's the best deal you're going to find.
Yeah.
So
They are every night.
they are, yes, I know. It's great. So
People playing pickleball during the concert in Gregory the other night. I was like, it sure is a combination of noises happening. My only question was where the skate park grant is at. Are we waiting on?
This is fantastic. May I?
you may.
Okay, so I actually just had a phone call today with Paul from the City Skate Group. As you know, as government is one to do, things stall. Interesting to find out that was approved. However, the vote was done incorrectly, so the vote had to be redone. The vote was then not done in a timely manner, and so it came in late on the larger, this is a larger bill, of course. So as of right now, that has not passed. They are either looking at what the potential would be for where they are with the previous as-written bill and funding, or what that would look like to bring it back. Bringing it back would probably be, again, next year. However, there is potential with some of the recent weather situations that there could potentially be some movement down in St. Paul.
And you're
other
speaking
things.
on the Minnesota State Legislature, correct?
Minnesota State Legislature.
Thank you for
So-
clarification.
Yeah, yes. Barring them going back into some kind of session, it would be probably a wait till next year type of thing. With my conversation with Paul, we had a great conversation. They would just like to see the language written better than it was the first go-around. So that's really what they're hopeful of. The funding is available, however, they'd really like to try and get the language written better so that when they do the project, there's a clear expectation of how things would progress. So as of right now, we are in a holding pattern on that item, but I will report back.
Cool, thank you. That's it for me.
Okay.
What do you got?
Well, both of mine are actually what you guys both said. So I live by Buffalo Hills Park. The neighbors have been saying that they feel like there's hoodlums back in the gazebo after dark, feeling like kids. So I know that we've kind of chatted about that at different times in the year because the way that the gazebo is facing the park, I mean, anyone can just be like sitting back there doing things. So, I don't know, just for like police watching the area, excuse me. No one has called them in. Of course, they just were like, saw me and then going on a walk and mowing my yard. Hey, I need to tell you something. Okay, I'll bring it to the meeting. So that's happening. And then the pickleball thing for me is I was just excited because I actually played pickleball on Father's Day with my dad and my stepmom and my husband, and like we had never used the courts at Gregory, and it actually wasn't busy. We were there like 4 o'clock until 5, and then this whole crowd of people comes in at 5. We learned about the people you're probably talking about. Very passionate. They had their tape measures. They had all their stuff. They invited us to join, but we were done, you know. But I was just really excited because the nets, obviously you guys all know, but there's like those tie things. So like they're not like the pickleball nets, but they're the tennis nets, right? But they're just like, they worked really good. And I was thinking like this is a lot better so that we're not having to replace the nets all the time. And I know why we have those at the other park because obviously it's an ice rink in the winter. But I was just really excited and impressed and thought it was great that we had a league. I didn't know about the 5 o'clock league on Sundays, you know. So I was just reporting that I was really excited about it. So yeah, if we're making new pickleball courts, that's a whole other thing too. But I think it was a great place. I thought the surface was just fine. The measurements were fine for me, but I'm not professional, I guess. But I was just excited to enjoy that. So I'll have to check out the 5 o'clock league, though, maybe. I don't know if I can keep up with them, but pretty cool.
They've got an app and everything that you
Yeah, they
can
told me
sign
about
up.
it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you're like
Yeah.
you're part of the.
Yeah, I didn't sign up yet. though,
Oh,
but-
okay. Well, fair enough.
Anyways, that's all.
Yeah, I had something else, but then you guys talked about pickleball for so long.
I
that
know you're fired up.
Just follow up on a few items. The summer baseball programs are going and are going well. So from what we've heard from everyone involved, fields look good. Still got some little, movements to work out on scheduling type stuff, but we can get that all ironed out. But I was going to note that T-ball is being done at Gustafson Park again. And, the first time my kids went through Gustafson Park, I said, what are we doing? We're in a field. Well, this is crazy. What are we doing? But since the city has added their sidewalk improvements in Northeast, it's a really good place to have something like that. Cars can park all along the streets, easy access for parents and their kids to get to the field. And then it's just a nice wide open space that is very easily utilized. So I just want to say thank you for getting that stuff squared away. YMCA had to move from JC's because of, in construction that we're doing. But just it's working out great. And when you see the families and the kids out there, it's nice that we have the parks that we have and that they're maintained the ways that they are. So just a shout out on all that stuff.
So you're saying you're happy we didn't sell that lot to
For development,
for-
we are
single-family
talking
homes.
about kids on grass. Right?
Well,
we
right,
have a lot of grass. We're finding out we could probably put T-ball just about anywhere. However, it's just nice that we have the infrastructure that we have and the improvements that we've made so that in these neighborhoods with the on-street parking, it works out so nice. It's appreciated. Not a parking lot to be found at Gustafson Park.
Thank you. Well, we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.